All right, we're recording. It's live.
Live and in action.
Yeah, welcome to Talmor Talks, Hailey. Thanks for being here today. Very excited to have you on the podcast. It is the first episode, and I appreciate you supporting my project and connecting with everybody on live, later posted video and audio.
Yeah, I'm stoked. I think it's so cool that this is your first one.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hailey is living in Hawaii, and I went to visit Hawaii about a month ago, and I bought a one-way, and I connected with Hailey through Instagram after I left the island, just to see somebody, and I connected with her through somebody I met on the island, and I wanted to have her on my podcast because it seems like she has experienced life in a very unique way, and I'd love for her to share that with us.
Yeah, dude, unique is such a good word for that. My life has been unique, which, like, honestly, everybody's is, right?
Right.
Your life is unique, and none of us are here to do the same thing, which is really important. I like to imagine that if all of my cells in my body tried to behave as, heart cells, I wouldn't be a person, because I need all of my cells to be doing their specific function in order to be a functional human being.
Mm-hmm.
So my life's function has been to be as honest and transparent as I possibly can. And when I was growing up, that really alienated me. Can you hear all these roosters?
Yeah, it's cool nature's with us.
Yeah. Welcome to Hawaii. But growing up being so honest really alienated me from my peers, because I was translating my experience, my lived experience, in a way that other people maybe were afraid of. Maybe I don't exactly know why. I just was like outcasted.
So you were like super transparent and honest with people when you were younger, and
yeah.
So you were yourself when you were younger, and that wasn't experienced well with others?
Yeah. I had a lot of difficult experiences trying to make friends growing up, of people just like really being mean, just being so mean, and just picking me apart. And there was, at one point in elementary school, there was a club started called We Hate Hailey.
What?
Yeah.
I can't imagine that, because you just like the person that I've met is just like so far away from that. I'm just enjoying. Yeah, like kids can be so cruel. Like they pick targets, and it's messed up. It's just like, pick a different target, please. Like maybe something non-human.
Yeah, isn't it interesting? Like, I don't know if you had experiences with just mean people growing up.
I did, yeah, and I kind of, I had some experience with bullying when I was younger, but what I would do is just always trust that I was good enough, and luckily I had that, and maybe I think my mom instilled that in me, but I just like kept like silent. I just allowed people to do that to me, and I would realize that, like, the best saying for me was, words can't hurt you. And luckily, like, I was able to not believe anything people said. But
Good.
yeah, and
yeah.
But I can but it's so overwhelming when you're young, like, people just doing that to you. It's just not it's not easy to deal with, and it's unnatural when you're in school. There's so many different people around you, and
Yeah.
which creates like fear of like being ganged up on and beat up or something like that, you know?
Yeah, and just being like rejected. I think that's a fear that a lot of kids have is the fear that they are unlovable for some reason. And like my present self looks back on all these experiences with so much love and gratitude, because being a target growing up caused the reaction in me to want to be nice to everybody. You know,
Whoa.
I would like go out into the world and I would notice these people who were being treated as underdogs, and I empathized with that, and so I would pour all this love and attention and just like I see you into the people who weren't being seen. So I'm really grateful for all of my experiences that I had, but it definitely caused you know,
Yeah,
caused me to feel,
yeah, I'm listening.
yeah, just all kinds of ways. All of the ways.
Yeah, I mean, it could be really difficult to deal with, and you know, it's just you know, it's hard to snap back from that, and just to allow yourself to be yourself. So just
yeah, I think that's it right there, is that I had to, in order to be safe in my social groups, I felt like I needed to program a new person into myself. Like, I wasn't allowed to be myself, and so I was like, okay, who should I be then if I can't be myself?
How crazy is that? Yeah.
Yeah, right? Human life is so cool. It's so interesting. So confusing sometimes, but I like totally reprogrammed myself to not let myself be myself, and I became like polite and like so
you shut off different parts of yourself and turned on
I was like,
others.
okay, this is allowed, this is not allowed, this is allowed, this is not allowed, and I would just like separate and cut away all these parts of myself that were like, hey, we're here to help you too. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy how that experience as a child just like causes you to become someone else, and then after you're done with school, you just have to like come back to your body somehow.
Yeah. I just disassociated. That was my I'm like, okay, I'm just not here anymore.
You just hide? It caused you to just... Did it cause more fear or just less passion for other people? What are...
The simplest way to say it is that it caused me to just not want to be alive. Wow. I just convinced myself that human life was like a living nightmare. I was never going to be good enough at school. I was never going to be good enough at home. I was never going to feel joy over being alive. And so I convinced myself that the answer and the solution was that I just wanted to die.
That's big. Did you act on that, or did you have to resist often? What was that like? Did you have to go? Did you talk to anybody, or were you communicating mostly with yourself?
There was probably 3 solid years where every day that I woke up was already a win, because I had gone to sleep that night just like praying and wishing and hoping, like, God, I don't want to hurt the people in my life. I want to die, but I don't want to kill myself. That's so selfish, is what it felt like to me. But I also simultaneously was so angry with the people in my life because I didn't want them to care about me, so that I could just pass out of life.
Oh, wow.
Like a ghost, you know? I was really angry that people loved me, so I would push everybody away because I felt like if nobody loved me, then I would be given permission to die.
Whoa. Yeah, well,
and it was...
that's a lot of love, actually. I see that's plenty. You didn't want people to love you because you loved them and you didn't want to hurt them by leaving the earth.
Yeah, so there was several years in my life where every day that I woke up, I already won some sort of battle. And I did act on it several times, and I had a super gnarly attempt on my life that landed me in the hospital and then the mental hospital. And then I got sent to wilderness therapy because my parents were like, if we don't intervene, she's not going to make it. And wilderness therapy ended up being, so for 3 months, for 13 weeks, I was in the middle of the desert in southern Utah, backpacking around with a group of girls who had similar therapeutic issues. And we were just living with all of our belongings on our backpacks, and we would just hike from site to site. And for 3 months, it was just me removed from all of my distractions, all of my friends, all of my escapism, all of my, like, you know, I couldn't smoke weed to numb myself anymore. I couldn't run away from home. Like, I was in the desert with myself.
Whoa.
And
they threw you out into the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Without all the society's advancements, you know, other than the tent and a backpack.
Yeah.
Did you have a phone?
Nope, no phones.
Okay.
No
technology.
Yeah, no technology, no walls. Like, there weren't any walls. I couldn't go inside.
Walls aren't natural.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the experience that I had coming out of the desert was nuts, because I was like, I want everybody to live like I just lived. You know, I want everybody to be responsible to, like, cook their food over a fire and, like, you know, carry their belongings on their back, and to have to sit around a campfire at the end of the night and just be with the people that you're with. You can't, like, go scroll on social media for hours instead of connecting to your loved ones. Like, you have to be there, present with them. And that's what saved my life, actually, is being in the wilderness and going through this huge therapeutic process where I was like, okay, what I did was I started asking the question why to everything. I'd have a thought come up in my head that was like, I want to die. And then I would turn to myself and I'd say, why? And then my own mind would give me a reason. I'd be like, okay, I want to die because I hate it here. And I'd be like, why? Why do you hate it here?
Right. So you kept asking why until you got to the bottom of it?
Yeah. And the root of it was I feel unsafe. I feel unsafe. Like, there's something in me that just feels so afraid. And so then I started working with that fear of, like, okay, how, if everything has a tension of opposite, right? If everything is connected by opposite experiences, the medicine for my fear is to feel so loved and secure. And so I started to integrate into my beingness different habits and thoughts and belief systems that would really make me feel loved and secure. So I would do things for myself to take care of myself. Like, I would really intentionally make a beautiful meal that I love to eat, you know?
And you knew that it was specific towards your want, right?
Yeah.
That's cool. So it's kind of like you went down into the cave of what was causing pain, and then you looked around, you shined a flashlight, and you're like, oh, okay, well, you know, and then you made your bed, and you're like, you were happy in that darkness, in a way.
Yeah. Yeah, in the darkness, I found that all of my shadows were parts of myself that I had named unlovable, and they were parts of myself. So if I wanted to unconditionally love myself, I needed to discover the reasons that I loved these shadows that I had casted away from me.
Oh, wow.
You know?
Yeah, that's big.
And so,
yeah.
And
because we're, you know, from the outside, we're told why people, or like people tell us what they see of you know, there in that part of us, and then that instead of us thinking about what we like about ourselves, we just hear, right? If you just have too many inputs from other people, not your own input, then it destroys the photo. And then
yes. Yeah, totally.
I get that.
And like the visualization that I see with that is that like my light creates the shadows, right? So I'm standing there and I'm facing the sun and my shadow is falling behind me, and someone else comes over and is like, oh my gosh, a scary monster is behind you. And if I don't recognize that it's my shadow that's creating that, and I'm like, oh, that's actually not a monster, that's me.
Oh, right,
if
right.
If I'm not aware that the shadow is connected to me, and if I don't love who I am, it's so easy for me to be like, oh my gosh, a scary monster is behind me and attached to me. So-and-so thinks that I'm this. They're probably right.
Right, and we don't even look back sometimes. But the time in the desert gave you the opportunity to just be like, dude, the sun is casting a shadow because I'm facing it. And
yeah, that's exactly it.
That's funny. That's crazy. It's just that like, you know, it's up to us to understand reality for what it is, rather than allowing other people to tell us what reality is. And
yes.
That's scary that like we allow that to become our picture of the world, you know. So I think that sometimes from this new world, or the amount of humans that we're surrounded by in this unnatural way, in schools and through the internet, and we're supposed to have opinions, right? Our brain just like automatically turns on an opinion when we're told like something that we haven't even experienced. Is just we're told, right? I wasn't even looking behind me, but just because you were scared and you saw a monster, you had to mention it to me. Now my brain is like, now it becomes my problem. Right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really important to be like not allow so much information in. Which is difficult. It's just like the internet is blowing up with information. So controlling our own routine, I think, is a big part of that.
I agree. And also I think a really big part of my realization was understanding what free will is.
Okay. Yeah, what is that?
You know?
What in your opinion?
Free will and just being that as human beings, we have choice. Nobody can make me think, say, act in any kind of way. There are chemical reactions that happen, you know?
Right.
Where, like, I have these reactions and I'm responsible for how I choose into or out of those reactions. Someone told me one time that the strongest force in the universe, he's like, what's the strongest force in the universe? I'm like, it's love. You know?
Yeah.
He's like, no, you're wrong. And I was like, no, I'm not. Like, love is the strongest force in the universe. Love overcomes everything. And he's like, no, choice overcomes everything. Wow. And I was like, oh my God, choice overcomes everything, because I can choose in or out of love.
Wow, yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's powerful, right? So
yeah.
There's one more layer in between your thoughts and what goes into your memories and your experience, right? Reaction is a very small experience, but and then choosing to continue to experience something will manifest into your life, which and you're right. And then in school, you're just told what to do all the time by authority. Usually, like, I think primitively, it's supposed to be just your parents, and even that is, I don't think is like enough to tell you what to do, right? We have free will, but society like program or makes us think that we don't, and we'll go to jail, and there's all these things, but actually, like, if you don't commit like big crimes, like, you're fine.
Mm-hmm.
If you're just a living, right, skip school, not anything like traumatic is gonna happen. It's like, but you're programmed to be like, well, if you leave school, then your parents are involved. Okay, well, what are your parents gonna do?
Yeah.
they're gonna talk
I
to
like
you.
to. Sorry, keep going.
Yeah, they're just gonna talk to you, and they don't even allow you to play out those thoughts. Like your own brain doesn't allow you to play out those thoughts, and it's crazy. So that we stop somewhere, but you can choose to actually dig.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to empower yourself to feel what you're feeling. Yeah, I like to imagine that we are always children playing on the earth. Like, no matter how old we become,
That's
you know, like, we're just...
That's such a good way to
we're
put
born
it.
Yeah, we're born as children, and we don't stop being children just because we grow up. We just age. And I like to imagine that on this earth playground, there are only a few rules, and one of them is that life is improv. There is no right and wrong. There's just, like, however you're choosing to show up. It's improv. You know?
Yeah, that's true. That's what you told me when you're like, hey, there's no right way to be on camera. Just be on camera, and if you would choose to receive thoughts that aren't comfortable for you, then just let them pass through and just, leave them behind. Those are just depictions of how it should be, but it shouldn't. Just be, enjoy. Playground for us.
Yeah. Sit anxiety down next to you. Be like, hey, brother, I know you're anxious. It's okay.
Yeah, and that's big. Right before this first podcast, I was just like, I was getting anxiety, and I'm just like, well, Hailey helped me through it.
You helped me through it. I just said some words.
Yeah, it's all about choosing to feel or not to feel.
Yeah. Yeah. My second rule on this earth playground for myself is that I am not playing God. I am just God playing.
Oh, I see.
It's not my job to feel like I have everything figured out. It's not my job to be perfect. It's not the role that I'm playing to be God. But I am a piece of God playing on this playground.
Right. So just like experiencing everything that you can is your job in a way. Not like blocking experience, right?
Yeah. Yeah, because everything comes to us for us. Is what I truthfully believe. All of the experiences I've ever had, all the traumas, all the violence, all the depression came to me to help me understand what love is and what balance is. Because if I had only the best experiences in life, I would not be a well-rounded person. I'd be very out of balance. I wouldn't have empathy for the opposites of the world. And if I only experienced depression, I would be out of balance also. And so because I have these polarizing experiences of being so depressed and now so joyful, I'm able to find this place of equality between them where it's like, yeah, I know what it's like to be so depressed. I know what it's like to be so joyful, and I exist right here in the center of all of that.
That's so powerful because if you're missing parts of the one side or the other side, then you're not getting the best human experience, right? That's right. It's just like, yeah, it's big. That's big for me. With the pursuit of happiness is just finding and just experiencing the world as much as possible. And you're helping me paint that picture, which means there has to be some sort of center of just allowing both sides into your life. And something I've been struggling with is just actually feeling the sad part.
Yeah.
It might be available, I might know it's there, but I don't feel it. And that's because I shut it out as a kid from bullying, because I just turned it off.
Yeah, you disconnected from that piece of yourself.
Yeah, and I'm working on regaining it back.
That's powerful. Speaking to the child and saying hey, I want to be connected to you, even if this isn't uncomfortable. You're bringing all your pieces home.
Straight up, yeah. It's just like I'm like mining them out of the cave because I put them there. I just left them behind.
Yeah.
I put them.
I felt that.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy, you just drop some parts of you on the way, and that's what becoming an adult is. But that's why I'm like not accepting that word of adult at all,
Yeah. What is an adult?
Yeah, until I'm ready until I bring all of myself into my experience, I'm not gonna move on with my life. And I'm almost there. I've worked things out with my family. I've worked things out with myself. And it's been a journey for me as well. But I haven't actually been able to cry, and I think that might be the signifier that I've achieved bringing back my normal self.
If you could name the chapter titles of your life, what chapter did you just close, and what chapter are you opening?
My chapter... Oh, I guess my chapter before was just all joy, I would say. Focused on joy. So and then now I'm opening up the full experience.
The full experience.
And that might be overwhelming. I get it. When you jump into an ice bath, you get overwhelmed. There's reaction, there's responses, but then you breathe, and it's just like, okay, this is kind of extreme, but it makes me feel more human. And
yes. Oh my gosh.
So yeah,
I love that.
Yeah, thanks for that question. It's an interesting question. And how long have you been living in Hawaii?
I also came here with a one-way ticket. I came here with a one-way ticket in April of 2019. And it's funny because when I got to the islands, everybody was like, oh yeah, Hawaii puts you through an initiation to prove that you really want to be here. Because it's such an epic place. It's such a paradise, and you have to earn it. Mm-hmm. In some form or another, you have to really resonate with I deserve to be living in paradise.
Right.
And maybe deserve isn't the right word, but just to be in alignment.
You have to
with
accept it. Be in alignment with it, accept the good and the bad with it.
Yeah. And so when I came here, I was like, oh yeah, initiation, what do you mean? I'm so excited to be here. And I got my butt kicked.
What?
I got my butt kicked. I bought a van. I was oh my gosh. My first
I heard about island
island
fever, but
yeah.
Don't get island fever, but what was it like living in a van?
Yeah, I got a van and it broke down every single day. Every single day. There was a point where for 2 months I was living on the side of the road in homeless in a van, and I couldn't move the van, I couldn't drive the van. The van was parked.
Whoa.
I was parked. And it was super challenging because I wanted to, all of the depressed parts of myself came back up so strong.
Whoa.
They were
That's so real.
I'm in paradise right now and I want to die again. Things aren't working out for me. I want to die again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're so easy. The brain is so easy to flip a switch.
Yes.
But that's why you gotta. What is it? Respect and just value that there has to be a balance to move forward. And
yes.
You go through a door and there's 2 sides to it. That's you moving forward.
Yeah. So my butt got kicked between the van breaking down, just really, like, not figuring out how to make any money. Like, I couldn't, for whatever reason, I just, like, couldn't figure out how to make money. I put a lot of limitations on myself. I was like, I can't get a job because I don't have a home, and I can't get a job because my van doesn't run, and I can't, you know, and like,
right, because society tells you those things.
Yeah.
Right, but how did it play out?
Yeah. So I put all kinds of limitations on myself, and then I met some amazing people who I'm friends with to this day. Some of them are still on the island. And I just felt really inspired by this, like, nomadic, like, I don't know, I just felt
freedom.
Really inspired by a lot of the people that I met out here who were, like, cruising, and they were making it, and they dealt with their struggles, and they came together as a community. And so I decided that I was going to go home to the mainland and go clear some karmic stuff up with my family. I was really going to go, like, show up for myself.
Oh,
so I went home.
Oh, that's big.
Yeah, I went home. I addressed a lot of the things that were holding me back, a lot of those limitations. I wrote my book, and then after all of that happened, I came back to the islands in July of 2020, and I've been here since then.
Whoa, that's fantastic. Well, it's like you acknowledged that it wasn't the right moment, and then continued on. It's just, I love that stream.
Mm-hmm.
You came back so that you can actually enjoy what you were there to see.
It was so important because there were a lot of pieces of myself that I left on the mainland because I was running away from them.
Mm-hmm. I
was like, oh, I want to start over. I want a new life. I want if I, like, oh my gosh, the classic, like, oh, if I just move, none of my problems will come along. You know?
Yeah, there's some things that you got to settle with people and with yourself as well before moving on. I get that. And I realized that when I was, like, kind of chasing money and just an independent life, because, you know, when I got the job I wanted after college, and I realized, like, I still wasn't in balance in my head with my family, and I was just like, well, there's still work to do, and all that energy I put into school kind of made me ignore my personal life. So when I quit my job, I made it a mission to shine light and love into myself and my family and my personal life, because without that, there was no moving on to the next chapter, in my opinion, because I want to experience life to the fullest. I want life in its raw form, and
the full experience.
I want the full experience, exactly. So the way I did that was by, you know, letting go of the goal I set for myself, which is get a job, you know, and I did. I quit it. And I, you know, my housemate helped me think through it, because I was like, I'm gonna go straight to Israel. I was gonna move away. It was a good way to tell my boss, like, oh, I'm leaving, without giving him without making up a reason or something. I was like, I'm gonna go to Israel to live there. My background's Israeli, and I was like, well, I'm gonna go be there. But when the pandemic hit, I got hit with I can't move there immediately, and I was like, this is just life happening for me, because I was like, well, if I ran away, I would still have to deal with these same things. You can't run away from human, like, you know, from problems, unless it's, like, right immediately, you know, if it's like, I don't know, it's like an alligator or something.
Yeah,
but
right.
It's humans.
You can't run away.
Can't run away from humans. Or you can't run away from fear of death either, because, you know, if it's not alligators, then it's tornadoes. If it's if it's not tornadoes, then it's asteroids.
Yeah, we're all slowly dying.
and and that's part of the experience. And I'm like, I don't want to miss out on any of it. So I'm here for that. So no, when I quit my job, I felt like I needed to do some personal work, and that wasn't something like that was pretty easy to tell people. Nobody wanted to hear that I was quitting, or I didn't want to tell myself I was quitting, and I was just so happy to have to process that. Also, right after another example, this is when I finished college. I was gonna go straight to traveling, but I had zero money, so I went to get a loan from the banks, and they denied me, and that was life telling me like, hey, you're gonna have to experience pain before you experience joy. And that's when I realized like I need to leave the joy chapter of my life and enter the full experience.
Yes. And I don't know if you resonate with this, but do you feel like living is your work?
Yes. Yeah, and removing any interference with that, which is personal usually. So yeah, living is the thing, because life has so many moments, and it's so long that it's important for us to enjoy and to be present for the whole ride. Like, when are you falling asleep on a roller coaster? Never. But we do. But we tune out. Yeah. And in part of my childhood, I turned off. Like, I closed my eyes for the loops. But now my eyes are open for this part of my life.
Yeah.
I'm fully awake this time.
Yes.
And and I appreciate that happening for me. And I see that within you as well. So it's just like I'm very happy to connect with someone who's choosing to experience life.
Yeah. I'm really stoked about this. I'm really glad to have met you. I think that we both have a similar vision that's really important to me. Not cutting anything away, but just being raw and real and transparent.
You're right. That's like the most appealing for me right now in my life. Is just like, where is that? Where are the raw people that try to remove the layers of fear and of insecurity and all that, and structure. And also are still awake for the experience. So a lot of people who remove their desire for like getting a job and stuff is they have other outlets of escapism that I don't vibe with. But I'm trying to be as awake as possible, and thank you for joining the podcast in that way as well. In that raw form. And I saw it through your Instagram. It's just like so clear. Like, who else is crying on Instagram and being like, hey, this is just part of it.
It's just like part of it.
It's like, thank you for being a human on the internet.
Honestly, it's really cool and really funny because it's all selfish, in some way. Like, I do everything that I do for myself because I love myself and because it's important for me to show up. Like, the benefit of that is that sometimes it helps other people, and that makes me so happy. But I am here to support my relationship with myself. I am here to have this experience for myself. And so I am, like, very much, like, I do my work, I do this, I share for me. And if the outcome of that is that it reaches anyone else, that's just a bonus. But it's about me tending to my relationship with myself, because I have to live this life with myself. Like, you know? Like,
yeah, we're the
I'm
ones
not
in our
going
unconscious.
anywhere.
Exactly. Yeah, you're not going anywhere. It's you with you. I get that totally. Yeah, it's mostly energy for something that we're enjoying. But yeah, what I've seen is that, like, you know, the more we become ourselves and feed ourselves, the more it translates into love for others. It's weird.
Yes. Ooh, I love
right?
that.
It's like when you try to like show people love, it's just like not as effective as like showing yourself love and then that transmitting into the world.
Yes.
It's crazy.
It's so much realer when we're giving from our overflow, when our cup is full, and then it's like overflowing out.
Oh, that's a great picture. Yeah, just like filling up your cup, and then it starts to, you know, feed others, and that's a great example.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I could see, you know, it's like it's something I trust. You know, you have to have trust in yourself and in the process and in the world. And I think it was from one of your posts, is that you have to trust others, that they're taking care of themselves and that you're taking care of yourself. And a statement that I play over in my head is that if you were in their shoes, you would be doing the same thing to the world. That you would process the world in the same way. And I think that's super powerful, because now your brain's like, well, what is their experience? If I was mad, then this would happen. You know, like I could totally get that. And that's when you just like show love and just compassion to others, you know? It's like,
yes. Yeah, I had the reaction for a long time, and sometimes still feel the pattern in myself of, because I experienced so much suffering and sorrow and just like wanted to die, I developed this need, in quotes, this need to save other people from feeling that amount of pain. You know?
I know what you mean.
Yeah, I wanted to like save other people from having to experience difficult things. And I'm learning in my life right now that if I save them from that, they don't get the full experience. And that's disempowering. Like, if I can instead let them feel everything, let them struggle, let them hurt, but just be there in a safe way with them through it, that's what makes the difference. It's not pulling someone out of the hole. It's letting them climb up it and standing at the top and like supporting them and congratulating them and celebrating them while they're climbing.
Yeah, that I completely get that. That's so much more involved with with showing love to somebody, and it's more frequent rather than one burst of energy, like, don't do that, right? Instead of being like, oh, move your foot over there and put your hand, you know, like, and allowing them to move forward as they wish, you know, and like realizing that you aren't God, you know. That's the statement that you were saying, like, we're not playing God, we're in God's playground.
Yeah.
And that's a good one. I think that's great advice for like wanting to connect with someone more. Just, yeah, don't control, but listen and be there with them. And you know, I'm having those thoughts when I want to connect with my loved ones. Like the way you do that is just by little, just be there while I'm growing. You don't have to like show up for just one event. It's just like, hey, just be like, congratulations, just keep moving, and right, instead of just being like one burst of energy.
Yeah.
So
do you know Ram Dass?
Ram Dass. I've heard of that statement. What is that?
Ram Dass is like a spiritual teacher. He's a human being. He's a human being who very well was a living example of the full experience. He's like written books, and there's like all kinds of seminars, and he passed last year.
Oh.
But one of his famous quotes is, "We're all just walking each other home." You know, we're just walking each other home.
That's funny. That seems like a culmination of thoughts, actually.
Yeah.
Like a lot of analytical, right?
And then it just all simplifies, like everything just like simplifies to like, oh yeah, we're all just experiencing this together and walking each other home. Like whatever it is that we are experiencing,
mm-hmm.
we're in it together,
right?
And we're walking each other home.
I vibe with that. We're on the same path. We're all on the same path.
Mhm.
And
yeah. And for everybody out there who feels, and like speaking to myself too, for everyone who feels like, oh, like I'm not progressing fast enough, or I'm not progressing in the right ways, or I'm not where I need to be or want to be. Because our feet are always on the earth, there's no way for us to ever be off the path. We came from the source, and every single breath we take is getting us back to the source, whatever that is, whatever that looks like. There's no possible way to ever be off the path. Everything that we do is correct. It's not right or wrong or good or bad. It's just reactions.
That statement is like super comforting, and it does remove all that anxiety of like, well, I should say something now, or I should move there, or like having mm-hmm. to be something for someone. So and experiencing. So like turning on all parts of life, I think, is our only job in a way, to experience it as best as possible.
Mm-hmm.
To be in balance, as you said. Balance has a new statement, has a new definition for me now. Mm-hmm. From that. And I think that there's a lot of relaxation in talking to you.
Mm-hmm.
About,
thank you.
Yeah. So, how has everything been now on the island after you came back, with COVID? And you came back during COVID?
Yeah, in July.
Mm-hmm.
So when I came back, there was a 2-week mandatory quarantine. So I quarantined with some friends, and then I just worked on getting a job. And I got a job as a live-in caregiver for adults with special needs.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
Giving back,
so
just like connecting with people.
Yeah. I always find myself in positions of caretaking in some way or another. It's really fulfilling for me to work directly with the hearts of people. Whoa. Whether it's speaking or caretaking or whatever. I just really love human beings. So I got a job working as a caregiver, and I was there for 6 months, and I just left that job. And now this is my beautiful tiny home, mm-hmm. and I live here as a nanny for an almost 2-year-old boy. And I work with him a couple times a week, and then the rest of the time I'm just here at my house and doing all my creative projects, writing my second book, starting my podcast. I teach a class every Thursday today's Thursday, so I'll be teaching it tonight, called SPACE. And SPACE is an acronym that stands for Safe People Always Celebrate Each Other.
Mm-hmm.
And so I hold a class where we talk about the tensions of opposite, and how if we want to be safe people and to feel safe living our experience currently, how we get to that point is by celebrating whatever opposites are running through us at the moment that we're living in. So if I am experiencing anxiety and I can celebrate the energy of anxiety, it turns me to a balanced point between anxiety and peace.
So
if I can celebrate my experiences, no matter what the experiences are, if I can because the way that I see things is that the universe is operating as like an echo. So whatever we tell ourselves is happening is what comes back to us. That's why the energy of gratitude is so potent, because if we tell ourselves we're grateful, then we feel grateful. And so with celebration, what I see happening is, okay, I'm having an uncomfortable experience that I don't necessarily want to be having. Maybe I'm telling myself that I'm not going to be successful and nobody wants to hear what I have to say. That's an uncomfortable experience. Okay, well, I'm going to celebrate my ability to feel anything at all. I'm celebrating the fact that I'm a human. I'm celebrating, okay, I have the ability to feel things and to even doubt myself. And then when I send up the echo of celebration, I receive from the universe more things to celebrate.
And that just like it helps you just feel like acknowledge, and it lets in that feeling that allows you to move forward, right?
Yes.
It's so like, you know, it's all waves, and like I feel like when you block your experience, that's when things get weird. And I get that, but like, and having a technique to allow to open the door, right? We have to. I get that, and is the space seminar, is that online for everybody, or is that for a community out there in Hawaii?
Yeah, it's a live in-person class, but my podcast is going to be a space podcast, where I'm sharing the philosophy and then having conversations with other people about this philosophy and how we can apply it into our lives. How can we celebrate all of the opposites that we're made of? And if I become safe space for myself, that invites a safe space for other people to enter. And if I'm not judging myself, if I'm not shaming myself, if I'm celebrating myself, then I am automatically receiving others in that same energy, where no matter who they are, no matter what their experience, I'm celebrating that they're alive and that we are co-creating a safe space together.
Oh, wow. So by being you and being comfortable, you are also allowing somebody else to be comfortable, and that is celebrating them as well.
Yes.
Wow. That's some duality. So tell me, what do you know the details of your podcast? Like, you should say it now if you can. Is there a name, or is this starting soon?
Yes, the podcast name is The Way I See Things. And it's a disclaimer in and of itself, because who am I to ever say that I know what's going on? You know, it's just the way that I see it and the way that I am participating with reality, but that doesn't mean that it's true for anybody else. The podcast, I don't have a launch date for it yet. There's still technology that I'm waiting on. But it will definitely be up and running this year.
Awesome.
But also my second book will be published this year as well.
Whoa.
Which is really exciting.
Number 2, okay.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
So tell us about your first book, Youniverse. You finished that the beginning of this year, or 2020 or 2021?
I published it in December of 2019.
Oh, okay, wow.
Yeah, and it's called Youniverse. It's Youniverse.
Yeah.
Because
the play on words. Is that also for your disclaimer podcast name? Maybe if you would put the EYE into the...
EYE, that's how it's spelled.
Oh, okay, cool.
The way I see things, yeah. Yeah. I really love to do that with words. I think words are spelling, they're magic. We're casting reality with how we frame it with words.
Yeah, you so definitely catch us. You caught me with that. It's powerful.
Yeah. So Youniverse is a poetic. It's a compilation of poetry about my personal healing journey and how I went from wanting to die and being so convinced that was my way out to now being so in love with anything that I get to feel, whether it feels like death or it feels like the peak of a mountain. No matter what's happening, how I got to the point where I was like, wow, I'm just grateful that I get to be alive. It doesn't matter what is coming through the channel. So yeah, I wrote that over the course of a couple years, just in my journals. Oh, wow. Processing different traumas. There's some pretty heavy experiences in the book, but that's part of my gifts, is that I'm super willing to share the difficult things in a raw and real way. There's stories of my sexual violence that I went through. There's stories of suicide. There's poems about just like intense
leaving it all
darkness
on the table for others to relate and maybe also get out of whatever difficulties and pain they're experiencing. That there's a brighter side.
Yeah, and that's the story, is that the tension of opposites means that the sun will set on our lives. There will be a period of darkness, and the darkness also comes with the promise that the sun will rise again. Mm-hmm. And if we forget that promise, it's so easy for us to get lost in this eternal dark night of the soul. Mm-hmm. But if I can look to the horizon and always anticipate the setting and the rising of the sun, then I remain in this point of celebration. I'm so grateful that it's not always sunny, because if it was always sunny, there would be no life on the earth. It would just be a ball of fire. Mm-hmm. And if it was always dark, there would be no life on the earth, because nothing could grow. So this tension of opposites the tension of opposites is what my second book is about. It's just a more articulated version of like, how exactly do we name our opposites? How do we love our opposites, and how do we find the points of balance in between them? So
that's so cool. There's a sequel to Hailey's first story of life. It's amazing that you put your whole life experience into like one book, and people could read that. And I read the back of it, and it's making me want to read the whole thing already. So is there stories within the quotes? You said it's a book of poetry, right?
Yeah.
And is there any parts where just there's a story in there, or is it just within the poetry? Is that your art form?
There is a preface in which there's like, I don't know, maybe 10 pages of me explaining the back story of the book. But the whole book is just poetry, and that's my art medium, is words and writing. The second book that I'm writing will have more storytelling in it. It won't just be poetry. It won't just be poetry. It'll be like storytelling. But this book, Youniverse is a book of poetry.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's awesome. Okay. And you also you gave us a preface, so that we can, for us to understand what's going on a little bit.
Yeah.
And more podcasts to come, so that people can understand where everything's coming from.
Exactly. Yeah. We'll have to do a swap. I get to interview you next time.
That would be great. I would be happy to be on your podcast. Maybe in person.
Yeah, come back out to Maui.
That would be great. I actually didn't want to leave Maui, but I came back to the mainland just to take care of some government stuff. But I wasn't gonna leave in general, so I'm already planning my route back.
Yes. We look forward to receiving you on the island.
Thank you. All right, so thanks for being on the podcast, Hailey.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This was really great.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing the most raw parts of your life.
Mhm. Thank you for your vision and just for your embodiment of who you are and who you're choosing to show up as. I feel how empowered by yourself you are, and I think that you're doing a great job. I'm proud of you and looking forward to seeing more of your evolution.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm on some sort of mission that I'm manifesting. So I'm just gonna keep posting and see where that goes.
Yes.
The pursuit of happiness. That's the big theme of everything. There's the YouTube, and now there's a podcast. Thank you for helping me start the project, and just sharing everything. And your book, it's on Amazon, right?
My book is on Amazon. It's Youniverse, Youniverse by Hailey Frogley.
Hailey Frogley plays with words.
Yep.
That's cool. And then your podcast is going to be called
The Way I See Things.
The Way I See Things. Sold. I love that. Just keeps your mind just aware that there's nothing fixed in this world. Just it's improv. I get that.
Yes, it's improv. We're just playing.
Just play. All right, Hailey. Thank you for being here. And
thank you.
Yeah, I'll put all the links in the description of the video, and I'll see you on the flip side.
See you on the flip side. That's a wrap.
That's a wrap. All right.
Aloha.
Aloha.